and thank you so much for being with us today. Happy Wednesday to you all. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti, and this is Weather Out West, where we showcase what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. You'll find coverage from the Pacific Northwest to the Mountain West, and California to Arizona in the Southwest. Today, we'll start in the Pacific Northwest. Seattle and Western Washington are bracing for the warmest temperatures of the year so far. Typically, July temperatures bring 70s and into the 80s, but meteorologist Rich Marriott is tracking highs into the mid-90s for some of the highest populated areas today.
Hi, I'm King 5 meteorologist Rich Marriott, and it is going to be a scorcher out there today, though people in other parts of the country laugh at us. Getting into the 90s at least around Puget Sound is really, really hot, and most of us aren't really prepared for it to be around for very long, that's for sure, and it shouldn't stick around very long. We're off to a pretty good start. Beautiful morning there in Bellingham, looking out across the water. It'd be even better if we were on one of those boats headed out into the water this morning. And, well, some people are enjoying the sunshine. There's Peggy there on the rooftop here at King 5 as she's peeking at us over the bar there, sitting on her nest, keeping the eggs warm. I think hopefully she realizes she can leave the eggs for a while. I think the sun will keep them pretty warm today as well. She might even be cooling them at this point. Take a look out right now. You see in Everett, we do have some haze out there. There is some wildfire smoke haze that has drifted into western Washington. It's not really affecting air quality that much, but it's definitely affecting the view shed. I mean, what our visibility looks like looking out across Possession Sound there towards the Olympics. And see, looking out from our Tacoma Tower cam, you can see the same thing. It's just very light and not, like I said, not really affecting air quality. If we check the air quality forecast for today, in fact, a few stations do turn to moderate this afternoon, but they just barely make it into the moderate range by a couple of points, and most other places stay in the good range. So really shouldn't affect your breathing at all around western Washington today. Take a look at the temperatures, but it might have affected your sleeping overnight, though. The temperatures anyway. We stayed in the 70s out at the airport at SCA until after 4 o'clock this morning. We finally bottomed out at 67, but a lot of places in the urban heat islands, Seattle, Tacoma, Everett, basically in the mid-60s, low to mid-60s for their lows, which that was only for a few hours, so it makes it really hard to cool off those homes that don't have air conditioning around Puget Sound. Checking our First Alert 7-day forecast, we've got hottest day of the week today. It is a First Alert weather day because of that heat. We're going to see it cool a little bit tomorrow. Still a pretty warm day, getting in the mid to upper 80s. But then we see that onshore wind really pick up and really going to cool off as we head towards the end of the week, and especially over the weekend. In fact, we might even drop a few degrees below the normal high out at the airport of 78 degrees. First Alert weather day through 10 o'clock tonight, basically because it's hot today. We had that warm morning this morning. It's going to be a pretty warm evening. Stay warm until late tonight. We should start to see more significant cooling after midnight tonight, and generally elevated fire risk around Puget Sound during the day today, primarily due to that heat, and it applies really all the way from Bellingham down through Chehalis along that I-5 corridor. Take a look at our what's coming out of the Weather Service. They have a heat advisory out for roughly the same area down that I-5 corridor until 10 o'clock tonight, but also a fire weather warning, or what we call a red flag warning, out basically for the west slopes of the Cascades down to about 1,500 feet because extreme fire conditions where fires can start easily and spread very rapidly today, and that's primarily due to the heat that we have and very dry fuel and low humidities out there. Checking our smoke forecast, you can see it kind of covers the area, but it's very light. That light blue is very, very light haze. And you can see as we move through the day, it's still kind of sitting over us, but those onshore winds start to pick up. That starts to push things slowly towards the east. You can see the smoke coming out of that wildfire there in southern British Columbia, and that finally pushes it on out of here. And so that still gives us that moderate there's moderate air quality in just a few places during the course of the afternoon. Take a look at the satellite image. You can see that smoke, especially over in eastern Washington. Doesn't show up well in the satellite image here in Puget Sound, but is definitely out there today, and it will be getting better tomorrow as we start to see those onshore winds begin to pick up. So First Alert weather day today because of the heat, mostly in the upper 80s and low to mid 90s today. We'll be back into the mid to upper 80s tomorrow, and then as we head on towards the weekend, we're going to see some morning clouds and then afternoon sunshine. It looks like those temperatures will be dropping back to the upper 70s and low 80s Friday, and then for Saturday on through Tuesday, we'll be looking for highs mostly in the mid to upper 70s.
Thank you, Rich. And you heard Rich mention it. 90s may seem laughable for many parts of the country, but summers in Washington have been historically comfortable. Like I said, 70s and 80s. So many people in the area simply don't have air conditioning, But that is changing. The latest data from the U.S. Census Bureau shows in 2023, 64% of people across Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue, some of those highest populated areas in Western Washington, do have AC. That is up from 53% in 2021 and 44% in 2019. So you can see in 2019, just 44% of people, but in 2023, that jumped to 64%. So many people in Western Washington are getting AC because our summers in Washington are getting warmer. So it's necessary. You saw that from Rich. We're seeing those 90s in Western Washington today. Well, Washington's neighbors to the south are sitting under the same ridge of high pressure. Oregon is also under heat alerts from the National Weather Service. Chris McGinnis is in Portland, keeping an eye on how today's weather will impact fire risk.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Chris McGinnis. The big headline in the Portland-Vancouver metro area in the Willamette Valley, Southwest Washington, Northwest Oregon is the heat advisory that continues today through 10 o'clock everywhere in this orange peach shading, expecting pretty high heat in the forecast for one more day, and then we get a break. So for that reason, we've got our KGW weather impact alert until 10 o'clock. Again, high temperatures, the warmest of the year thus far, averaging between 95 and 100 degrees. So for folks that have to work outside, again, just take frequent breaks, ease your exertion during the heat of the day, and just, monitor yourself for signs of heat stress. I keep looking at this map because throughout the morning and now as we get deeper into the morning, it's holding true. The temperatures are continuing to run this much warmer than they were 24 hours ago. This is the 24-hour temperature change. It shows Portland in the 9 o'clock hour, 14 degrees warmer than yesterday this time. Yesterday, we hit 91. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to be 14 degrees warmer this afternoon, but the point is we are starting the day much warmer. The other point to add on to that, as I show you our Wells Fargo sky camera, beautiful shot of downtown and the sunshine now off in the distance, is that the freezing level is a little higher than it was yesterday. So that tells us that the air above us is also warmer than it was yesterday. You put all that together and that gives us the high confidence in the hotter forecast this afternoon. Our visible satellite imagery, it's been kind of cool to watch South Washington and the North Oregon coast in and out of the marine layer. That is now peeling away. The south coast is still somewhat foggy. Look at that little swirl in the clouds there too, dipping southward. That will eventually draw the cloud cover away from the South Oregon coast as well. Throughout the morning, this is always a really pretty shot. And from Lincoln City along the Central Oregon coast, you typically can see the Chinook, or excuse me, it is our Chinook Winds Casino Resort camera in Lincoln City. Cascade Head off in the distance. We couldn't see that earlier this morning. Now we can. So the fog and the marine layer peeling away. The beach starting cool, but will be very, very nice with sunshine this afternoon. Pacific City gets up to about 76 degrees. Let's take you to the Columbia River Gorge. I call this hairdryer in the face weather, at least for the western gorge from Cascade Locks west towards Corbett. The east wind will be noticeable, but it will be blowing around very hot air. 96 in Cascade Locks and the Dalles, 94 in Hood River this afternoon. We'll take you to the Willamette Valley. This is a gorgeous shot. It's also pretty hazy. So Mount Hood, Oregon's highest volcano there, off in the distance. It's hard to make it out this morning because it's a little hazy, and some of that is wildfire smoke from the fires that are burning in central Oregon. So the Willamette Valley is likely to see a little bit of high, thin haziness, not enough to impact the temperatures or the air quality, but you will notice it in the air as Salem reaches for a high of about 98. Same story, McMinnville, Corvallis, 97. So really, really hot day today. Southwest Washington, again, warmer than yesterday. Longview, 95. Vancouver, 98. Same story here in Portland. Here's Futurecast. Our modeling shows high and dry conditions through the day today. Interesting to watch the marine push come in overnight tonight. That will work its way through the gaps in the Coast Range and into the Portland-Vancouver metro area. So we're likely to wake up with some cloud cover tomorrow, but that will also take some of the sting out of the high heat for tomorrow. 98 this afternoon. Tomorrow, not nearly as hot. We do want to point out that as that change of air mass slowly occurs, that will drive an increasing wind across the Cascades and into central and eastern Oregon, where, of course, there's very high fire threat with ongoing fires burning in the area as well. So there's the wind forecast for tomorrow, and it does pick up noticeably east of the Cascades. Your Portland forecast, 98 today, 89 tomorrow, 88 on Friday, and much more comfortable into the weekend.
Now that is a big difference. Thank you, Chris. Still ahead after the break, Arizona and Colorado are continuing to feel the impacts of monsoonal moisture. Our meteorologists on the ground there will track the latest storm threats. Welcome back. Arizona is getting a break from the excessive heat, but that does not mean the weather is calm. Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries is tracking the monsoon as storms continue to brew and keep the threat of flooding high.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries. We'll look at your forecast across a very active state of Arizona where the monsoon, it's alive and kicking. So far, we've had flash flood warnings issued yesterday, also dust advisories. We are now seeing, yes, most of this action doing exactly what we expected, which is huddled right around the southeast quadrant. So Tucson still sees some brighter banding. This indicates the presence of heavy showers, also some hail and lightning. Right now, no warnings to accompany this moisture, so it is whipping around. We've also got some energy in the higher elevations, just between about Phoenix and Flagstaff. But again, as far as the bulk of the moisture, the threatening energy, that has passed on through, and now we're kind of dealing with the remnants, but we are gearing up for round two, which will make a splashdown today. So across Arizona, one thing you're going to notice, temperatures, coming way down. Last week on Wednesday, we broke a record with 118 degrees. Today, Phoenix, we are going for highs below the normal range, right about 101, and the normal range is 107. So you can see how low these numbers are, given this is typically the hottest month of the year. Havasu going for about 105, Yuma 101. Now, I really don't see much of this monsoon energy making its way to the west side of the state. It's really in the higher elevations, so Flagstaff and Sedona, Show Low, Payson, Winslow, everybody looking for quite a bit of cloud cover later this afternoon into the early evening hours, and temperatures as a result are going to be on the shy side. So Tucson not even going to make it into the 90s today. Now here we go, our monsoon meter. This is our rain gauge, for lack of a better term. This is where we're looking to see monsoon moisture, and the severity of it is indicated right here, 5s and 6s. That means we're expecting some strong storms, but we're not looking for the massive systems that are going to be bringing in over like 2 inches of rain. Now the valley, we're on the board, but it's later in the afternoon. I'm not looking for so much morning action, but after about 3 o'clock and into the evening hours. Notice our projections through Friday show that, we've got healthy monsoons in the mix for southeast Arizona, White Mountains, and northern Arizona, at least again through Friday. For the valley in western Arizona, our opportunities are going to start diminishing as we get into Friday. So as I take you around the state, you can see very pocketed, isolated, scattered moisture, but again, most of it is really impacting southeastern and the eastern quadrant. But again, these are very powerful systems, so be ready. In fact, when all is said and done, I am expecting some measurable rainfall to the tune of about a ½ inch, possibly up to 1 inch in the higher elevations. You can see that indicated here in blue. So powerful storms, outflow is a big concern. 40% coverage for the valley through tomorrow, and then that begins to taper off into the weekend. For the White Mountains, look at this. We've got healthy opportunities today starting to taper off, but then more moisture is going to be bubbling up. Again, White Mountains, so the very eastern portion of the state. And then for Flagstaff today and high country, yes, healthy opportunities today and tomorrow. In fact, through about Saturday, and then that moisture will start to dissipate. So bottom line, we've got sunshine, we've got clouds, we've got potential showers today in the Phoenix metro area with daytime highs at about 101 degrees. Higher elevations, yes, those numbers are way down. I mean, look at this, down to 70 degrees by tomorrow, but then the moisture is going to squeeze out through the weekend. Weather impact alert days today and tomorrow for the valley as we are watching these storms. Pocketed storms move on through. It's back to recovery for the weekend as daytime highs will get back to their basics. That means 107 to 108 on Sunday.
Thank you, Ginger. Yeah, if you have been in the desert in the summer, you know those temperatures, while they're in the triple digits, those are low. Colorado is dealing with a similar threat. Storms there could bring flooding and hail, and our meteorologists in Denver are keeping an eye on the possibility for tornadoes as well. Let's get to that local forecast now.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin, and our weather is about to change today. We've had some beautiful sunrise and sunset shots coming in from viewers, and the color in the sky coming from smoke and haze from wildfires burning across western Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. And there's a big plume of smoke headed our way today, so air quality is not going to be great. We are excited to see the arrival of a cool front this morning that will bring temperatures down out of the mid-90s into the low 80s. That's going to feel great. But we're also going to see an influx of moisture that, yes, could bring some beneficial rain, but maybe too much of a good thing. Flash flooding is certainly a potential today, especially in the burn scar areas. Storm Prediction Center has Denver and eastern Colorado in that level 2 out of 5 for, well, the hail, the flood threat, and also isolated tornadoes today, primarily between 1 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Severe thunderstorm risk as we head into Thursday, much lower, but today it's that level 2, so really concerns for flash flooding and hail and even some damaging wind gusts from some of these fast-moving thunderstorms. We're going to wake up to some stratus and some patchy fog out there and some bad air. That plume of smoke coming in from the west may prompt National Weather Service to put that air quality alert out for more areas than just western Colorado. We think thunderstorms are going to build west of I-25 around 1 and then really pick up steam between 3 and 5, moving into Nebraska and Kansas this evening. But again, air quality alert for smoke and haze as the wildfire smoke comes into Colorado with gusto today, and really sensitive groups got to be super mindful of the air quality this afternoon. Mid-60s to start, low 80s by this afternoon. I love it. I love it. Potential weather impact alert for the severe threat today. A couple of storms in the forecast for tomorrow, but we're looking at just a beautiful weekend in Denver, both Saturday and Sunday.
Well, I'm Weather Impact Team Meteorologist Jada Knowles right here in Denver, Colorado. And overall, have you ever wondered and asked yourself, where does the smell of rain comes from? Or you actually smell it yourself and you say, oh my goodness, it's getting ready to rain because I smell it. Well, it actually comes from one of 3 things, or should I say 3 things itself. The first thing, it comes from soil-dwelling bacteria. Coming from after the raindrops hit the soil, it releases this earthly smell chemical into the air, and that's the first sign that you're smelling, the earthly smell. The second one comes from plants. Of course, we're talking about that oil that's on plants. It's released from those oils that we smell called petrichor, and that's very sensitive to the nose, and that's most of the time what we're smelling. The third is coming from lightning. So lightning strikes, and it actually can split oxygen molecules into individual atoms. So those atoms can combine with O2 molecules to make O3, or which is, of course, ozone, and which has a distinct pre-rain odor. So you're most likely smelling 1 to 3 of those things, and you're not just crazy thinking that I can smell rain. Go ahead and tell your friends the reason why you can smell rain. And do you like the smell of rain, or is it just me?
It's not you, Jaden. We all do. Petrichor, one of my favorite fun facts. I love telling people, oh, when they say it smells like rain, I say that's petrichor. And fun fact, you can actually buy a candle, the scent of petrichor. Yes, I bought one time and gifted it to one of my meteorologist friends. Jaden with the facts. Thank you so much. Still ahead after the break, we'll take you back to the Northwest, where our team is monitoring haze from wildfires burning, plus warm summer temperatures continuing to settle in. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us for Weather Out West. We now turn to Boise, where warming temperatures are mixing with haze from wildfires. Let's get to Hector Mendoza with the latest.
Hi, I'm Hector Mendoza, forecasting out here in Boise, Idaho. One thing I wanted to start before we get into the forecast is just look at this beautiful cloud formation that we got posted on our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook page. It looks like a swirl or a bit of a wave, and just a beautiful view from yesterday. The other thing you can notice on this photo is going to be the blue skies that we saw in some spots. So thank you, Barb, for posting this picture on our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook page. But one thing that's going to stay pretty similar is going to be the headlines that we're paying attention to through the rest of the day today as temperatures hold steady in terms of those low 90s from yesterday. That continues on into this afternoon. The other thing that we're going to see move in and continue is those hazy skies as smoke moves on in from the west, and we'll talk about exactly where we're seeing the source of that smoke in just a little bit. But after that, we're not only talking about smoke, but then the heat starts to pick up as we get on into Thursday. So we're going to start to see that those temperatures will really ramp up as we head on into Thursday and Friday. But looking here at our Sun Valley camera, they're looking out onto the White Clouds mountains there. You could see those hazy conditions from early on this morning. That's going to continue to be something we'll pay attention to. It'll be much lighter in some of the mountain spots, but looks to start to increase just a bit into the afternoon here as we look at our southeast Boise camera. Again, hazier conditions. This time we don't see much of those clouds off into the distance as we're going to have clear conditions. But again, some hazy skies on tap for the next couple of days. And again, it looks like we're getting most of that smoke that's coming in from the Cram Fire out in north central Oregon. And that's going to blow in from the west. Again, we're seeing a northwest wind that comes in, and that's what's bringing in some of that smoke. And it looks like it impacts the Magic Valley and the Treasure Valley as well, as we could see some air quality be impacted and start to diminish just a bit as we look at some of the valley locations. And as we head closer into Friday, could even impact places up into the mountains, as we also have some regional or some closer sort of at-home fires that we're seeing up into some of the mountain areas. So again, that could be impacting. So we're zooming on in just to get a closer look at where we're seeing that stream in, at least to start. Again, that looks to be closer into the Magic Valley for today. And we're going to continue to see those impacts and see those conditions at least into the start of the week and ending off this week here. But looking at our satellite and radar picture, we're seeing clear conditions after a system came through, dropped temperatures, brought some thunderstorms and some showers along closer to the Idaho-Nevada border in portions of eastern Idaho. That has since moved on out, and this is what we're left with, is clear conditions. And we're going to see a ridge start to develop and start to ramp up, and that's what's going to bring us those temperatures closer to triple-digit heat. There is a chance as we head on into Thursday that we could see some of those temperatures hit that century mark, but for now we're seeing temperatures into the upper 90s. That continues on into Friday, and then we have another system that comes in that drops the temperatures, staying seasonable but still dropping the temperatures from near triple digits down into the low 90s as we head on into Sunday and into Monday. But as we look at the 7-day forecast here out in the mountains, temperatures into the upper 80s as we head on into Friday. Some clouds start to increase there as we get closer into the following week, and those temperatures stay pretty steady into the mid to upper 70s. Here in Twin Falls and portions of the Magic Valley, we have a similar trend where we'll see it climb up as we head on into Thursday, dropping back down as we head on into Sunday, and then we see that sunshine return in clear conditions into Monday and Tuesday. And then here, the 7-day forecast in Boise, we're seeing those hazy conditions all the way through Friday. Temperatures into the triple digits just to wrap up the work week, and then again, those temperatures will trend much cooler, getting into the mid 90s there Saturday, low 90s, and even those morning temperatures getting down into the low 60s. We could see some clouds start to increase as we get on into Monday, but we expect a little bit more sunshine as we get towards the middle of next week.
Thank you, Hector. And just to the northwest of Boise, we now head to eastern Washington, where conditions are relatively mild, but meteorologist Thomas Patrick is watching an impending warm-up.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington. Beautiful blue sky day today. In fact, there's hardly any cloud cover across the entirety of the Pacific Northwest. So we are gearing up for a whole lot of sunshine and much calmer weather, especially in terms of the winds that we've had recently here. This is about as average and normal as it gets for July weather in eastern Washington here. So with the calmer winds and the sunshine around, our temperatures do warm back up. Yesterday was just a high of 75 degrees in Spokane, but we'll warm that right back to 85 for today, which is the exact average high temperature for this July 16th. So we're going to hover at around that mark for the next 7 days or so. We'll have a couple days above it, and then next week a couple days below it, but not by any kind of large margin. Not looking like we'll stray more than 5 to 10 degrees away from that mark anytime soon. So like I said, exactly average for mid-July standards for eastern Washington and North Idaho. A lot of low to mid 80s around the metro area, and just a tad warmer for central Washington at 90 in Moses Lake and 91 in Omak. But outside of any kind of slightly warmer conditions, this is about as perfect as it gets for July. Big baby blue H, high pressure right over Washington state. That really helping to clear out the skies and calm down the winds in tandem here. So very little to write home about weather-wise, just very enjoyable calm conditions. I've been focused in on the winds recently here, and while today and tomorrow is going to be a lot lighter in terms of those wind speeds, it does pick back up heading into Friday and Saturday. Looking for wind speeds at around 15 to 25 miles per hour on Friday, and actually just a tad stronger on Saturday. At the moment, haven't noticed anything too hazy or smoky in terms of sky conditions recently as well. Just a few fires around the area locally could give localized impacts in terms of any smoke or haze, but nothing is appearing like it's going to be widespread as an issue across the inland northwest here. Actually, I take you back out to this riverfront park, downtown Spokane view with the clock tower in the foreground and Mount Spokane in the distance here. And you can actually see a little bit of the silhouette of the mountains to the north and northeast here. That's a good sign. If we can see that, it's not too hazy, especially looking off a couple dozen miles off into the distance in terms of the visibility and the haziness. So not a big issue whatsoever. Big picture across the northwest, it's the ridge and the jet stream which will give us a small bump in temperatures for the next couple of days. And the rain chances just skirting just on the outside of the inland northwest. If there's going to be any short waves or disturbances that ride that jet stream, just misses Spokane either to the north in British Columbia or to the east into Montana. Maybe far north Idaho. We're talking the northernmost county of Idaho. Might squeeze out a stray shower chance over the mountains towards Friday and Saturday, but it's looking unlikely overall, at least not close enough in terms of those rain chances. So there's that small bump up temperature-wise, 90s for Thursday and Friday, again, slightly above average, before it goes back to average for the weekend, mid-80s both days, a little bit windier on Saturday. There could be red flag warnings that get issued for this day. It is something that I'll monitor through that mid-range part of the forecast. At the moment, no alerts, no weather impact alert days just yet, but it is something that I'll be keeping in mind heading into the weekend. And right before the 7-day forecast, there's those active fires. None of them got too aggressive in yesterday's winds and feel like they're a bit calmer for today. But sunny skies and warm temperatures finish out the week with highs in the 90s.
Thank you, Thomas. Still ahead after the break, the Pacific Ocean is ushering in cool, fresh air for our coastal communities in California, but the monsoon is creeping toward parts of Southern California. Those forecasts next. Welcome back. We now take you to Northern California, where conditions are unusually comfortable for many. Meteorologist Monica Woods is in Sacramento with the details.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods checking out our Central and Northern California forecast, and we've got a few changes. Probably a positive change for a lot of folks as we start to see cooler than average conditions. Along the coast, that means overnight drizzle. For the valley, morning marine stratus. For the foothills, cooler than average conditions. Now for the Sierra, we'll still be tracking a slight chance of some storms. But what we're going to be seeing is clearing skies during the afternoon, but a nice onshore flow develops during the late afternoon and early evening. That's going to pull in some of that marine stratus through the Central Valley, primarily through the Delta, and then kind of spread it out throughout the capital region. It won't quite make it into the central San Joaquin Valley or the northern stretches of the Sacramento Valley, but nonetheless, at least that gives us a hint of that cooler air coming on through for the valley. Here's a look at the Sacramento San Joaquin Valley. This Delta, this is what we're talking about here. This is the region that is kind of the connection between the Bay Area and the Central Valley. When we have a nice strong push of that cooler air, it comes right through this area. Here's a little bit better perspective on a map view. The cool air moves inland from the coast and kind of presses through the lower parts of the region. That's going to be the Delta. That's the lower area where that cooler air has access to move through because it's surrounded by that coastal range. And so where we have that access in the colder and cooler areas, that'll move through the valley and kind of spreads its way north and south. So when we have those hot days and then we get that delta intrusion, usually the first place that we'll see it is right along the I-80 line through the capital region. You can see how those temperatures are a bit cooler for places like Fairfield, Vacaville, and Sacramento that have access to that cooling breeze. Whereas north and south of that, towards Colusa, Oroville, and even for Modesto, temperatures are still going to be hanging right around the low 90s into our Wednesday. Now, this is quite a comparison to last year at this time, where we were seeing temperatures deep in the 100s, one of the longest stretches that we've seen on record. This year, folks keep saying, hey, we're not going anywhere for vacation. We'll keep it right here because temperatures hovering in the mid 80s to right around the lower 90s is actually quite comfortable. Now, we did have that 102 on July 11th, but overall, it's been pretty much on par with above average and below average temperatures. We're going to keep that nice onshore flow going into our Wednesday forecast, where we'll see the best opportunity of some thunderstorms popping up as right around Yosemite as some of that monsoonal moisture tries to surge its way back towards the desert Southwest. We'll see the reappearance of that again on our Thursday forecast, not really moving much farther north of that into the Tahoe Basin. So we're going to keep it dry actually for the forecast. Highs in the 80s for Truckee and South Lake Tahoe, 80s down the hill through much of the Mother Lode as we move our way southward again towards Yosemite, Sequoia, and Kings Canyon National Park. Highs in the 80s for all the vacationers there. It is absolutely lovely with sunny skies. 90s as we head inland, much better than the widespread 100s we were dealing with for the start of the work week. Wednesday's forecast temperatures throughout the Central Coast, San Luis Obispo up to 70. We've got right around 59 degrees for the Monterey Bay Peninsula. That includes Carmel. Hollister up to 73. By the time we make it inland again, we will be hitting those highs in the 90s. Bay Area forecast, we're in the 60s with that overnight drizzle, partial afternoon clearing, but nice to get a little bit of that intrusion moving inland with highs in the 80s for the Delta. Along the northwest coast, highs are going to stay in the 50s and 60s, move inland. We're out of the widespread 100s into the 90s. Still have that fire burning around Shasta. Not the greatest air quality. Not seeing much of that haziness move its way southward, though. Highs will be in the mid 80s to right around 90. Average high this time of year in the low 90s. We're going to be in the mid to upper 80s instead. Looking on to our extended forecast, highs are going to warm slightly into the weekend, but overall staying pretty close to average. In fact, by next week, we see a couple of 80s back in the forecast.
Thank you, Monica. I know my family in Northern California is ecstatic about these temperatures. Let's now head farther south, where those monsoon storms could creep into Southern California. As you just heard Monica say, meteorologist Vanessa Paz is in San Diego tracking when and where those showers might hit.
And happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. This is what it looked like earlier from our mission-based sky cam facing SeaWorld. Now it's transitioning a little more northward. Pretty quiet start to our Wednesday morning. We have that marine layer. It will eventually mix out looking ahead to the noon hours, giving another day of sunshine for most of the county. Here are the weather headlines as we get the second half of the work week going. Morning clouds will eventually lead to afternoon sunshine. We do have a chance of some patchy drizzle moving in tomorrow and Friday mornings. I'll get more into that in just a moment. And then looking ahead towards the end of the week, specifically Thursday night into Friday, we have a surge of monsoonal moisture. We'll be impacting a good portion of the southwest as far as San Diego County. Chances for any rain look fairly minimal, but again, we do have a chance, although it is fairly slim. All right, taking a look at today's highs, sort of a rinse and repeat of yesterday, forecasting mostly low 80s for spots like Santee as well as El Cajon. Mira Mesa going to reach a high close to 80 degrees later on this afternoon, topping out in the high 70s, high 60s for areas like La Jolla as well as PB. As we move a little more northward in the North County, those areas that hug the 15 corridor will be inching towards 80 degrees. That includes Rancho Bernardo, San Marcos, as well as Vista. And if you're looking for any temperatures a little cooler, just head west towards the beaches. Those neighborhoods that hug the 5 freeway will be topping out in the mid to low 70s, with the exception of Encinitas. Will struggle to get out of the 60s, forecasting a high of 68 degrees there later on this afternoon. As we take a look at what's in store for the mountains and desert areas, pretty warm. We're not under any excessive heat warnings nor advisories, but we'll be inching towards that 110 mark, close to 85 in Mount Laguna. Low 80s on tap for Julian as well as Alpine. So here's what's happening a lot. The reason why we're going to see that surge of monsoonal moisture. We see all of that moisture just to our east over the Four Corners. This area of high pressure pressure is going to move a little more westward towards Southern California. We pair that with this area of low pressure, and those two combined are going to give us that shift in winds, which is also known as monsoons. So those winds are going to shift out of the east to the west, potentially bringing in some rain for us, especially for those higher elevations. So as we fast forward the big picture here and kind of give you a play-by-play in terms of precipitation, anything we see will be fairly light, and it will be impacting mainly the county's eastern half versus the coast and inland valleys. So any plans that are intact for Thursday and Friday outdoors do not have to be canceled. If we see anything, it'll be a spritz here or there, but we do have a very small chance of seeing a pop-up thunderstorm or two. Here's a quick look at your rain chances. This is mainly for the mountain areas as we take a look at what's in store for Thursday and Friday. It's pretty low, anywhere between 20 and 25%, but the chance for precipitation is still present, especially when it comes to those mountain areas and those higher elevations. And then we drop down to about 5% looking ahead to the weekend. So we do have a lot of events happening across San Diego County. We have our Pride Parade, and of course, we have other events like concerts occurring. We'll be in the mid-70s. Conditions will cooperate. We have subtle daily changes for the coastal areas, maybe a difference of 1 or 2 degrees as we inch towards the weekend. The inland valleys will be in the low 80s, high 70s. Not a lot of change there either, but of course, keep in mind those relative humidity levels will see an uptick due to that shift in winds coming out of the east to the west, bringing in some of that monsoonal moisture. Overnight lows will remain fairly mild in the low 60s. Taking a quick look at your 7-day mountain and desert areas, will be in the mid to low 80s. Not a lot of change, but notice how we do warm up a little bit towards the middle of next week. Meanwhile, for the desert areas, spots like Borrego Springs as well as Ocotillo Wells will be over that century degree mark. 100 degrees forecasted for tomorrow, and then we'll see a little bit of a climb looking ahead to this weekend.
Thank you, Vanessa. Still ahead after the break, we've focused in on the West Coast. Let's zoom the lens out and take a quick check on the national forecast with heavy rain heading toward parts of the south. Welcome back. Summer heat is widespread, but only some parts of the country are watching summer storms. Heavy rain is impacting parts of the Midwest and also down south near Florida. Let's get to Alan Holt now with the national picture.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Alan Holt. I hope you are well this Wednesday. Lots of heat for a lot of the country, the exceptions being the northern plains, northern Rockies, upper Midwest. Minneapolis, you may not crack 70 this afternoon. A few passing showers there, sub 60 in Rapid City. You get farther west, 102 in Phoenix, 98 in Portland. The other Portland in New England going to be hot as well, near 90 out there. And then unsettled as you work your way south, the mid-Atlantic and southeastern parts of the country going to have some thunderstorms, and those storms in the southeast going to be in part because of a developing tropical system. Invest 93L has a medium chance for development over the next couple of days. It's not overly high that this thing does develop, and one of the reasons it's going to have a hard time has to do with the proximity to land heading into Thursday. It looks like most of the guidance keeps this close to the coast. If it gets a little more to the south, could offer a better chance for development, but this thing is looking pretty sloppy, and then it turns northward on Friday prior to reaching Texas, and that north turn is going to mean some pretty hefty rains in Louisiana. 3 to 6 inches of rain, maybe more in localized areas. That extends really across the coast, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, also looking at several inches of rain. So flooding rains and a rip current concern on Gulf-facing beaches. Those are going to be the two primary threats for the rest of the week and into the weekend. Rip currents, if you're not familiar, this is when water's moving away from the coast. Sometimes there's a little break in the waves. That's how you can tell where they are. And, you really don't want to fight the current. The way to get out of a rip current is to swim parallel to shore and wave, yell, swim parallel. That's the quip to remember if you're ever caught in a rip current. This is how our simulated radar is projecting this system to move, and it will be moving to the west as we progress through Thursday. This is Thursday about midday, could be interacting with southern Louisiana. Plenty of rain wrapping around that eastern side of the system. You see how there's a little spin there, just right along the coast of Louisiana with the north turn into Friday, right around the Texas-Louisiana border. So this, again, looks like a sloppy system. Doesn't look like it's going to fully mature. And, you know, we'll keep watching it. Best thing to do is just stay aware to the updated weather forecasts if you are living along the Gulf Coast. For In the News Weather, I'm meteorologist Alan Holt.
Great information from Alan, and he was talking about rip currents. One of the best tools you can use to just eyeball if there are rip currents. If you look out over the ocean, you can see the waves. If there are any calm spots with no waves, that is typically where the rip currents are. So it doesn't make sense. You'd want to go to the calm areas, but that's actually where that water is getting sucked out. So just a good rule of thumb is avoid the most calm spots on beaches, especially as everyone is heading out to their summer fun. Still ahead after the break, you've probably heard the metric used to measure hurricanes and tornado strength. But did you know there's also a metric used to measure wildfire risk? It's a little bit of a work in progress, but we'll explain how the Haze Index works and the current status ahead. Category 2 hurricane or an EF3 tornado. Those are specific metrics set to quantify the strength of those weather phenomenon. There's also a metric used to measure wildfire risk. It's called the Haze Index. It's in a little bit of a transition period right now, but I went out and found out how this is measured and the historical context behind it. In forecasting, meteorologists use metrics to help make complex issues easy to understand. If I say Category 5 hurricane, you know that's severe. There's also a scale used to measure fire risk. It's called the Haze Index and is based on dryness and storm potential. It's commonly used in the West, especially the Pacific Northwest, where dry summers with the potential for thunderstorms and lightning are common. Like other scales, a formula is used to calculate the output. It measures two things: moisture content, or relative humidity, and stability, which is basically how mild or storm-prone the air is. Each of these factors are given a ranking 1 through 3. For relative humidity, a 1 ranking means very moist air, and a 3 ranking means very dry air. For stability, a 1 ranking means stable air, so a mild weather day, and a 3 means unstable air, which can bring thunderstorms and the threat of lightning. Those two numbers are added together to create a final ranking somewhere between 2 and 6. National Weather Service forecaster Steve Reedy says when the output is higher, so a 5 or 6, that means we have dry air with high thunderstorm potential, increasing the risk for fire.
Having the general public kind of aware of this metric can certainly be used as a fantastic tool to get, to heighten people's awareness, to consider, okay, maybe I should be a little more fire wise today, maybe not start that campfire.
Scientists say it's important to know when there are dry days that also have the potential for lightning.
And its formation is complicated, but part of the reason why it is the way that it is so that it can break down this complicated information in a really digestible way.
Another important factor in fire risk is winds. Winds are not factored into the Haze Index, but can definitely play a negative role on a fire-prone day. With editor Kevin Glantz, I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. Okay, so the Haze Index was released in 1988, and some meteorologists argue that the way it's measured is actually outdated, and weather modeling has improved significantly since then, so many agencies are actually phasing away from the Haze Index. This is actually the first summer the National Weather Service is not releasing a Haze Index forecast. But this happens in science and weather. For example, the metric used to measure tornadoes was updated from the Fujita scale to the enhanced Fujita scale, which is what we use now. That's the beauty of forecasting. Modeling is constantly improving, helping meteorologists give better, more clear forecasts. And of course, fire risk is a very real concern right now. So everybody should be aware, metric or not. We have some alerts in the Northwest. So yes, just be aware of that fire risk, whether we're using that Haze Index or not. That does it for us here on today's episode of Weather Out West. I am meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. Thank you so much for spending the last hour with us. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great day.